It's nice to see so many parents out. I am Carmen Barrack. I am new to Raha this year. I'm the secondary school counselor. Been in Abu Dhabi 3 years, and I must say I think I have one of the best jobs on campus because I get to experience and get to know students differently than everybody else. I'm not a parent, so I'm not a parent to them, I'm a parent, so I don't have to worry about them the same way you do. And I'm not a teacher, so I don't have to be after them constantly to get their assignments, and I get to sit and enjoy them and help them in any way I can. So it's a great job. And I'm happy to be here today to share with you the presentation I already gave to them before winter break. So very similar message, so that you know what they've heard, and then a little bit of an addition for parents. So stress and time management is the topic today. How many of us have said, I'm stressed? But what does that mean? What is stress? So stress is any change that we have to adapt to. And it's not the event itself, it's our perception of the event. It can be related to both happy and sad events, and it often produces an actual response in our body, the fight or flight response. It can be found in the environment, something external, like school, or stress often is generated from ourselves, from within. I wanted to share some statistics with you. In 2009, the American Psychology Association did a huge study or survey with teens 13 to 17 years old. And they wanted to know what are the top sources of stress. Can anybody guess? Now, this isn't going to equal 100% because they had to pick about the 5 top sources. Can you guess what the number 1 source of stress is for teens? Any guesses? What's that? School. Yeah, for sure. School is definitely number 1. What's number 2? Do you think? Now this is American, I understand that, but what do you think number 2 is? And maybe ask yourself, do you think it's the same here in the UAE? This is what I ask students too. Yeah? Good guess, and that's mainly what people say, right? Doesn't even make top 5, which I find very interesting. Any other guesses? Parents? Related, yes. Family finances is number 2. And that relates to number 3, and maybe that is the connection. And remember, these are 13 to 17-year-olds. That's getting into colleges and planning for the future. So of course, then finances may become an issue for a lot of students. Can I get into that college I want to? Do we have the money? Number 4 is physical appearance and weight. So I found that very interesting because, like some of you possibly, I thought friendships and relationships would be in top 5. This is just one survey. It is in the top 10. I believe it was number 5. I just found that interesting. So I want to make this interactive, and I want to ask you some questions and maybe just talk amongst some people around you first of all. How do you know, because we are excuse me, the role models for our students, for our children, how do you know you're stressed, first of all? And then we'll talk about ways we cope. How do you know you're stressed? Anybody? What's a sign of stress for you? Yes?
When I'm driving the car, I want to throw a hand grenade.
Funny, because when we talk about sources of stress, the exact example I used in the presentation with the students is the driving here, yes. But yeah, so we may act emotionally or have a strong emotion. Yeah? How else do you know we're stressed? How else do you know you're stressed? Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Changes in that. Sleep, big one. Yeah. You're ahead of me. Any other signs people witness? Anybody have, sorry, go ahead.
Nervous eating.
Yes. You're ahead of me too in the presentation. Excellent. How about physical signs as well? Anybody notice increased heart rate, hands sweating, any of those kind of things happen? Headaches, yes. Yeah. How about thinking patterns? When we're stressed, our thinking patterns often change. We become more negative, harder to see the positive. Can anybody relate to that? Relationships. When we're stressed, how are our relationships? Maybe the time that we need the most, and I'm generalizing now, but at the time we need the most, we may lash out at the people closest to us. So I have students recognize that stress shows itself in many ways. It can be relational, it can be physical, it can be social, it can be emotional, it can be mental. But there are a number of signs that we are stressed. How do you cope with stress? Again, going back to being a role model, just think about it. When you know you're stressed, and adults have more self-awareness than students, when you know you're stressed, what do you use? What are your coping strategies? Can you share some with me?
I found yoga.
Yoga, for sure. It's a mindfulness activity, yeah. So something physical. Time out, yeah, just taking a break. Being in the present.
Well, this wouldn't be appropriate for our kids. Alcohol is often.
I guess I won't comment, but yes. Yeah, or retail therapy, I've heard too. Anything else that you know you do? Positive ways to deal with stress? Exercise. Yeah. So, go ahead.
At the actual time, if I was a student, and I realized that I was stressed, I told the student, I failed, I did look good. I think that I'm not more stressed than I realize, and I apologize. I will do that.
And that is part of self-awareness, which is what we want to teach students as well, and be open about what we're feeling. We're all human beings, right? Excellent. Well, one thing you touched on here when you mentioned yoga, I am trained in a school-based mindfulness program. And unfortunately this year probably won't roll out the entire program to students, but that is on the upcoming agenda. But I gave them the first lesson of mindfulness. How many of you are familiar with mindfulness? How many here are familiar with mindfulness? Okay. So mindfulness is secular. It's not based on any religion. The idea is, and when you teach the really young ones, is that our mind is full of the present. So we're not thinking about what we're going to do for recess. And we're not thinking about what happened last night, how we procrastinated on our homework, or whatever the case may be. We're just in the present moment. And so I gave them one small little exercise, which takes a minute or less just to calm our body down. And the science is there. There's a lot of science happening on mindfulness and how it can be used in schools to help children relax and stay calm, to help them with their focus, to help them problem solve, and even with empathy building in relationships. So I thought we would do the exercise as well, so that you're familiar. This, what looks like a cashier's bell, is my mindfulness bell. And all I'm going to do is ring it. And we're going to listen to sound. It's one way to bring us into the present moment. So I'm going to ring the bell. Now you can close your eyes, you can keep them open, doesn't matter. When you no longer hear the sound of the bell, just raise your hand. Does that make sense? So just close your eyes, keep them open. I'll ring the bell. When you no longer hear the sound, just raise your hand. We ready? There we go. Let's try it one more time. Always the first time I don't get all hands up, so I say, either you have supersonic hearing, or just to remember that when I ring the bell, when you don't longer hear the sound, then just raise your hand. Excellent. So what you literally did right now already made a change in you, in your chemical body. So it's lowering a number of things. It should be lowering your heart rate. It should be helping to deal with that cortisol in your body. There really is a biological change. So for the next 30 seconds, because you don't need a bell, and as I want students to realize, I just want you to listen with your eyes open or eyes closed to sounds in our environment. Inside this room, outside, you might hear your own breathing. Just listen for sound. Okay? Let's try it. So just get yourself relaxed. And let's begin. Okay, that's about 30 seconds. Now in a real lesson I would share, we would talk about what we heard and what this was doing. But what the idea is we want to empower students that they have the ability within 30 seconds or 1 minute to calm themselves, refocus, and get started again on what they have to do. So listening to sound, one little lesson that they've learned. Okay, other positive ways to deal with stress or handle with stress. Planning ahead, eating well, sleeping well. Sounds really simple. When we're stressed, it's not, right? So this is stuff you may all know, but let's just go over the importance of it. Starting at the bottom. So sleeping well. Does anybody know, now this is research from the National Sleep Foundation, how much sleep the average teenager should get a night? Any ideas? Okay. Yeah, you're right. It's 9.25, they say. Any guesses now? Because I asked every single class I saw, which was every class from grade 6 to 10, as well as grade 11 and 12 at another point this year, how many students are getting that a night? Yeah. It was way less than half the class. I would say on average is maybe 20% of the class, maybe. Less than half of the class is getting 6 hours of sleep a night. Or sorry, did I say that right? Only half the class is getting more than 6 hours of sleep a night. Because I went down, how many got 9, how many got 8, how many got 7, how many got 6. And it wasn't until I hit 6 hours that half the class hands went up on average. So we are dealing with sleep-deprived children, right? And what does that mean? That means poor concentration, eating habits change, emotion regulation is not the same. Our emotions are raw for all of us. We cannot cope the same when we aren't sleeping. So sleep is one of the most important indicators of our well-being.
Sorry, Carmen.
Yeah.
How do you make, because I always tell my kids that it's important to sleep.
Yes.
How, now they keep telling me, oh, we are older, I'm not tired, So how do you make them sleep?
It comes, I think, a lot with routine. And I'm not saying I have all the easy answers or that there are easy answers. With awareness, hopefully we can bring about change slowly. So they're getting this information too. And I empathize with them. I'm not a morning person. I'm certainly not a morning person. And yet we have to be at school at 7:30 in the morning. Some of these children are on the bus at 6 a.m. to get here, right? And the school day, and I tell them this, in your world as a teenager, the school day is not built for you. It's built for your parents and our work schedule. It works, right? So what happens to teens? Well, they tend to go to bed late. Developmentally, that is normal. They get less sleep during the week. So they're tired during the entire school week. And you should see how the heads nod. They're tired, right? So what happens on the weekend? Well, hey, it's our time to relax. We sleep in, we have some fun. It's all great. But come Saturday night, our routine is lost, right? And we start the cycle all over again. That's the world. Parts of North America, parts of Europe are looking at changing their schedules, and some have. Some schools now give the option to go in the morning or the afternoon, or they're starting later in the day, recognizing that for teens, really the ultimate start time would be probably 9 or 10 in the morning. That's not our reality, it's not going to happen, so let's look at some tips for trying to sleep. So that's what I give them next. And I'll put them all up here at once and we can take a look at them. You can certainly read faster than I can talk. But here are some of the tips I share. Okay. So keeping that regular sleep schedule, even though we don't want to on the weekend, does help. Disconnecting technology, 15 to 30 minutes before bedtime. Some people say, oh, it relaxes me. Well, actually not at the neurological level, it doesn't. It's activating our brain still. Doing something, though, that does calm you, like reading, taking a warm bath, listening to music, whatever it is, right? It's individual, but know what relaxes you. Having a light snack before bed is not a bad thing. You don't want to be eating heavy food, but if the children are hungry, which teens tend to be, then having a light snack will help them sleep. Keeping your bedroom calm, quiet, and dark at night. It's as specific that the National Sleep Foundation says 23 degrees Celsius is the ultimate sleeping temperature. And I laugh at that a bit, because if I put my AC in my bedroom at 23 degrees, I'd be freezing. But just so they have an idea that they should be able to snuggle in their blankets and not be too hot. What else do we have here? A midday snooze is okay, but it needs to be 1 sleep cycle or less. And that, on average, for most of us is 20 to 30 minutes. Any more than that, and you're now going to start to change your night's sleep. Exercising regularly, but knowing too that exercise can stimulate you and give you energy, so exercising before bed may not work. You may need to plan that in your day when you can exercise and still sleep. And then limiting caffeine, which includes chocolate. I say to students, remember, chocolate has caffeine. There's hidden caffeine in a lot of food. Then I go on to the next thing about eating, and I love this quote, might be my favorite one, and I didn't realize it until I read it. Maybe you know it already. Stressed is desserts spelt backwards. How many of us recognize that our eating habits change? And eating habits change in 2 directions for many of us. Either we stop eating when we're stressed, our body tells us we're not hungry, or we're searching that fridge out nonstop, and we're craving high-fat, high-sugar foods. Does anybody recognize either of those extremes in yourselves? It's normal. Again, it's normal. It happens. So I'm not a dietitian and I'm not a nutritionist, but I'm fascinated by food and how it's connected to our well-being. What I have put on here, and I share this again with students, is the Canadian Food Guide. And I am not saying it's correct. And I acknowledge that really food is linked to our culture too. We have different beliefs in what we should eat. But I would venture the guess that nobody's going to say we shouldn't eat fruits and vegetables. And so you can see here that for teens, there's different ages, 9 to 13, 14 to 18. They split them between males and females. That is by far the #1 food we want to be ingesting. Right? Fuel our body, fuel our brain is the message. Now, there may be changes in here in what you believe, and that's a whole other topic. But the idea is it's so easy to grab that high-fat junk food, so to speak. And I understand that we're craving it. But if we can substitute it at least a little bit, or be aware that, maybe we can use fruit instead, or have a veggie snack, that we might actually help ourselves deal with the stress. Right? Any questions so far? So we're going quite fast, but sleeping, eating, very important factors when we're looking to handle our stress. Planning is another big one. Helping our students and our children plan. So I'd like to start with this. Studying, the act of texting, eating, and watching TV with an open textbook nearby. And how I wish. I empathize with students. I am a certified Canadian counsellor. But I am 1 step away from being a registered psychologist in Canada. I have about 300 hours to find in the next 5 months before I can write my final EPPP, it's called, licensing exam. So I wish it was this easy, but it's not. So the very information I give the students, I say, I have to use myself. Like, I'm applying it too. And I know it's not easy, but we can do it, right? So really, planning is the key to success. Right? It can be a group effort, and this is what how I encourage parents to also get involved. Part of the success is knowing that we need to pace ourselves, not race ourselves. We need to leave time for all the things that are required of us on a daily basis. And this means that we have to incorporate time to study, but we need our breaks. They are so important. And I hear many students come into my office and say, Miss, I got so much homework to do, I'm just not going to go to practice. I just don't have any time to exercise. And I'm like this at that point. No! Balance is key to our success when we are stressed. If we don't make the time to exercise, to socialize, whatever it is that gives us the release, we aren't nearly as efficient when we try to work. It's a proven fact. So what does that mean? That means probably we need to create that schedule. And parents, I highly encourage you to get involved in this process. Sit with your child and create the schedule with them. What they're learning now is to work backwards, to be super organized. And that starts with, number one, writing it down. So every student here has an agenda. Opening that agenda, and as soon as you know what assessments you have, plugging them in. So prioritize too. So get all the assessments in and then prioritize what has to be done first, second, third, whatever the case may be. A key thing though, as we're doing this, is to remember that we need to set realistic goals. Right? Not all of our students here, not all of our children are capable of a 7, for example. That is okay. Right? That is okay. So what is realistic? If we set goals that are not realistic with our children, all we're going to do is discourage them. They will hate school. Learning will not be fun because it will be too challenging. We've got to find the right level of challenge. And when I say this, I don't mean we aren't setting standards. I'm not saying, oh, it's okay to get a 2 or a 3. That's not what I'm saying. And if that is the case, then we can talk about it later. Then maybe, something else is wrong, right? Because every child should achieve success. So in one course, maybe a 7's possible. Awesome. Okay, that's realistic. But in another course, maybe it's a 4 or a 5, and that's okay. So work towards setting realistic goals with your child, and know that, we talk about this later in the presentation, that the last thing we want to do is have that child believe that our love for them is attached to their goal. Okay? So we don't want them to think if they get a 4 or 5, we love them less. So the message is, we love you and we're here to help you achieve what's realistic for you. Okay? But having high expectations is a good thing too. Working backwards. What this means is, if in 2 weeks there's a big assessment due, we note that in our agenda, and now let's work backwards. So, from that date, what do we know we have going on? Do they have regular football practice? Are they in an art lesson of some sort? Are there family events occurring? Put those down. Okay? Now let's break it down further. If we have 2 weeks, how many hours does that translate into that you need to put into this work? Is that 10 hours? 5? What is it? Okay, if it's 10 hours, we've got 14 days. Where can we plug those 10 hours in? And how? Is your child one who can work an hour straight and then take a break? Or is it a child who needs actually probably an hour and a half for that hour of studying and needs small breaks in between? Either okay. That's part of self-awareness, what works for them. But putting that time in literally. On Tuesday, we will study for 1 hour. And if you can get as specific as that hour will be from 4 to 5, awesome. But looking from where the assignment is due to today and working backwards. It's a skill. So a lot of us think, well, some of us might have good time management skills and think, oh, that makes common sense, that's so easy. But for some students, this is the first time they've ever had to use an agenda. The little grade 6s, and they are so cute. The little grade 6s, this is overwhelming. NYP, they're moving to different classes, so they need to be more responsible. This is something that has to be taught to them. Chunk by time or chunk by concept. What I mean here is, again, knowing the student, knowing the child. Are they the child who works better if you say, set your alarm, you have 20 minutes, then take a break. Take a 5-minute break, whatever it is, and then go again. That's chunking by time. And as an elementary school teacher, that was my background, we learned that the age of the child is approximately their attention span. So if I'm teaching grade 2, which I did for a number of years, I knew I had about 7 minutes, and that was it. So you're a fast mover because you might lose your attention, right? So we're dealing with students who are between 12 and 17 years old. So I give it a guide, You may have 20 minutes or less of attention. That's okay. If that's you, that's okay. Just know you gotta take a break. Or you may be lucky and you can focus for the whole hour. The other option is chunking by concept. Some students work well with the little goal in mind, such that I will review chapter 6, and as soon as I'm done reviewing chapter 6, then I'll take the break. Either work, right? Chunk by time, chunk by concept. I have a note here of studying according to the type of exam and course. So the point I'm just making there is, if it's a multiple choice exam, that's a different type of studying than doing math word problems, than having to write an essay. So knowing how to use your time efficiently is a skill as well. And finally, studying and actually scheduling in those breaks. What are you going to do for a couple moments to give yourself a break, to refocus? Interesting. Somehow we skipped our mindful moment number 2. What happened? Okay. At this point, because we are more than halfway, I might be losing your attention. So I had a mindful moment number 2 slide in there, and I'm not sure what just happened to it. Let's take a moment. Any questions? Yeah.
What do you think about studying with music, soft music? What do you think?
Studying with soft music? Individual, right? For some, definitely, it works. Especially ones that maybe don't have lyrics. It can set the tone, keep them relaxed. For others, they're going to find it distracting. So again, there's no right answer. It's finding what works for the child. Stand up, take a 2-second break if you need to, and then we'll continue. The students, I made them get up and do like some burpees or some high knees. They were so happy with me. I had more appropriate shoes on, so I actually let it, but not today. Yeah.
So these are children that we are working towards self-independence.
Yes.
These are teenagers that, one day we want to launch and have them be capable, competent young adults. So there's that fine balance of how much we're actually involved in this organization piece of their time and how much we let them figure out on their own.
Right. There is. And again, every child is different, right? Some kids need a little more motivation, a little more guidance, others are a little bit more self-determined. So as a parent, you know best. I always say, you have it in your gut, right? What your child needs. These are just tips to consider, and you'll take away what you think is going to work for you. Yeah. I'm not going to go through this slide much. I will post this on the secondary blog. It's just I found some really good tips about study habits that we've all kind of already been talking about, as well as test anxiety, how to handle that in the actual testing environment. And I will do more with that with the students this year. When I did the initial opening survey to parents and to students, what the students were telling me they need the most help with is stress management, test anxiety, and self-esteem. So we're hitting those 3 this year in different forms. Now, here's my fun little duck. I don't know a person who doesn't like my duck, and all the eyes that pop up. Adult, child alike. They come into my office, they grab the duck. I have more than just a duck. I have a couple other animals too. It makes us laugh. And really, mindful moment number 3 in this presentation, and something I am doing consistently with the students I get a chance to see, is letting them know how important it is that we focus on the positive when things are not looking so good in life. We will all have problems. We will all have negative experiences. That's part of being human. But what happens often, and again, I'm generalizing as I have quite a bit here just this presentation, is we focus on those negatives. And our thinking begins to spiral. When we're thinking in a negative pattern, it literally goes like this. You're constantly worrying, you're overanalyzing, maybe you don't feel you're good enough, you're gonna fail, and you just get stuck. And we work ourselves up, right? When we're not negative, when we can think more positively, we can problem solve in a linear manner. We have a problem, and we have a solution. Even if the solution isn't right, we have that ability to think linearly. So what's important for us to do, and there's happiness and positive psychology is actually overstudied, is think positively. So when times are bad and things are not going the way we want to, we need to stop, and it's part of being mindful, and think about a couple good things going on in our life, big or small. There is a ratio that says for everything that goes wrong in our life, every one negative event, we need to counter it with 3 positives for us to be well. That's the study. So we sit in a circle, everybody gets a duck, chance to hold the talking duck, and they share a positive. Now, it's basically gratefulness or thankfulness, and I encourage you maybe to take that idea home with you. I sit at my supper table with my children, and I wish I could say every day, we don't do it, once a week, and we did it last night, and just say, tell me 3 things that are going on with you that are good, and we share ourselves. And it can be small. My son was really pleased he got a chocolate, to a lot bigger example where we were at the Abu Dhabi Golf this weekend, and my son got the ball of the 2nd best player there, gave him this ball. So, it depends, but it's just a good time to feel good. And we build off others' positivity too. So, sharing a laugh, or just thinking, oh yeah, my sister came to visit too. That's lovely. So, taking a moment to just, with your children, be thankful really does help with stress management and our well-being. Okay, if only parenting was a science. Some science on parenting. There are a lot of studies saying that an authoritative parent is the most successful. Have you heard of the different types of parenting styles? Permissive, authoritative, and authoritarian. Anybody heard of them? Or identify with any of them? Yeah. So permissive parenting basically means we are our child's friend and the child rules the house. Authoritarian parent means that it's more of a dictatorship. It's about control. I tell you what to do and you don't challenge me. Authoritative is in the middle. It says that parents should be high on expectations. So we have expectations, right? High expectations, but we're high on warmth and love as well. Now, cross-cultural studies have been done. This is not just a North American phenomenon. Yes, I'm from Canada, so that probably is where my bias or what I'm used to. This is cross-culturally. And the key behind authoritative parenting is reasoning. So all parents may implement this idea differently, but the sense that if we let our children, if we reason with our children, if we let them know why we make the decisions we're making, if we talk to them about the consequences of actions, then they get a better understanding of what's happening, why the decisions are being made, and they become more empathetic as well. So, teens, some thoughts behind authoritative parenting and why it works. Teens' beliefs about their own abilities are actually based on how they think you see them. Okay? So they're reading what you're saying, even if you're not saying it. It's their perception. If we can send the message then that hard work is what is needed to succeed, we are more likely to get them on board. And they are less likely to see again your love tied to how good they do. So, because they can control how hard they work. Using this type of parenting uses a problem-solving approach and is flexible. So, for some people, again, this is cultural. In North America, the thought tends to be that let your teen be involved in decision making. So give them some freedom, But with that freedom comes responsibility. And what they got to do is earn your trust. But they need to be involved in some of these decisions. And last and most importantly, this kind of parenting gives time. And parents are involved. It sounds easy, and we're all busy, right? But time is really what even our teens need. So a lot of people believe as children get older, they need to spread their wings. They don't need us the same way. This is true. They don't need us the same way, but they need us. And now more and more research is coming out and saying, you know, the first thought was that the friend group is the most important in the teenage years, and that's where they're learning so much. This is true. But there's as much research coming out saying that parents need to stay just as involved. That really they're still looking to the parent a lot as a role model and how they are going to decide who they become as they build their beliefs and value system. I saw a hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, can you give an example of the problem-solving approach where you let the team have some specific?
There's a wonderful model that I use constantly, and the reason I love it so much, it's easy to remember. It's called power. So, and the idea is we want to instill some power in them too. And so each letter, it's an acronym. The P is for literally writing out what the problem is, or vocalizing what the problem is. Maybe the problem is, are you allowed to go to that party on Thursday night? The O are your options. So letting them and you brainstorm what are all the options you can do. What are the possibilities? No. Yes, but with a time limit. Or yes, but I'm going to be there. You know, so you come up with those options with them. And I always say to the students, realize that not doing anything is an option, right? In this case, the party, that's a little different. But if they're dealing with a problem with a friend, I say, you know, realize that you could do nothing. That's an option. So brainstorm with them all the possible options. The W then is deciding which option seems best. So going through those options, kind of weighing them out, and picking one. So that's which one are we going to try? The E is giving them an opportunity to execute that decision. And then the R is a chance to rate it. Did it work? And if we're talking a situation, a social situation, were they trustworthy? Were they dependable? Did they meet the curfew? Did they follow the guidelines? Letting them prove themselves. And if R, it didn't work, then we go back to O. What were our other options? So what can we try next? So the power model, I love it. I use it all the time because it does have people realize too that we have power over our own behavior. We cannot control others, but we can control what we do. So, I have a website. I see it's very hard to read there, but again, I will put this online, and it talks about more about the authoritative parent and the belief behind it. Yeah.
On your last point, you say be involved, give them your time. Do you have teenagers tell you, is there like one or two consistent ways in which that door of, you know, I'll let my parent in, if my parents do this, I'll let them in? Is there something that a student, you know, kind of consistently you'll hear from your...
Yeah. No, I think it's very different, but what I do consistently hear is that teens want parents involved. Even if they don't say it, they do. They want to feel love. Okay? We all do. And that they're cared for. Now, that may lead to this, so never mind. Just what we talked about is bringing them into that equation. Okay, so we're going to have some family time this weekend, but you decide what it looks like. This weekend will be your turn to choose. Next weekend it's my turn to choose. Just going to end off here with a few resources. Our time, I think I'm about 40 minutes right now, so I'll play it by how much you want to go through these, by how much time you have. I put this online, Helping Teenagers with Stress. It was an article. I put it on the Facebook page. I didn't. Miss Bridget was lovely enough to do it for me. But know here that there's a link to this. It kind of summarizes what we're talking about today. If you want to take a look at it, it's 2 or 3 pages long. Another thing I put up here, and as part of being involved, also I think was posted on our Facebook page, 28 ways to ask your teen, how was school today, without asking, how was school today? Right? How was school today? Good. Okay, let's move on. I catch myself doing it too, so now it's like, so tell me, what was the best part of your day today, you know? So just different ways of asking them and getting involved in their school life. Yeah.
The alien spaceship question was bomb.
Was it? Or, yeah, there's some really creative ways to ask. I didn't put the link, and I'll be honest, I didn't put the link because there's some interesting advertising with these 28 ways. It's a blog, so I'll leave it to your discretion to Google 28 ways to ask your teen. Basically, you put that in, you're going to find it. The third one is stress survey for students. Now, there's a lot of them out here. I don't know if this one's validated, but I did find it pretty decent. And the link is here. I'll just, but I also opened it so that we could take a look at it. If you are interested, I would not actually provide the scores yet. Don't let them see this. But what I would encourage is that actually you run through this survey yourself as if you were your child. If you're interested. Rate how you think they would answer, and then go back and score it. And on the bottom it tells you how the stress level. Again, I don't know if this is a validated study, meaning I'm not sure how much science is behind it, but to me it seemed like a decent indicator. And it just gives the scores. I would leave this out for them so they aren't influenced. Then have them do it. Maybe they don't want to share the individual answers, but what their rating is of their stress level. It's just self-awareness building, and then it also just gives you an indicator. Are you kind of feeling what they're feeling? Like, do you see their world as they're seeing it right now? And if so, great, you're in tune. And if not, okay, what do I need to focus on? Is my child having more friendship issues than I realized in school? And that is still, even though I didn't make that one top 5 survey, is a big, big factor in how much they're enjoying school and how well they're doing in school. Ours is a friendship situation, a social situation, comforting. So yeah, I like this survey, and something resource, just I thought I would share. So that essentially is my stress and time management presentation. Are there any questions or anything you would like further information on?
I'm just curious, like you gave this presentation to them?
Yeah.
But in the class, or is there any time that the students are sort of taken by the hand just at least once to go through whatever the time management things, like the
to do
steps?
In grade 6
just
for
to
sure.
Experience it,
yes.
But also the mindfulness exercises and so on.
In grade 6, they have gone through some agenda planning for sure. I think more is needed, and that's recognized. It's hard when the schedule's already been developed, but it's on the horizon, is what I can say for sure. My intention is to get the mindfulness program out to every single grade in the next 2 years, so that we can do that, because even that skill is transferable throughout our entire life. A happiness program is also being given to grade 11s and grade 12s right now, so we're hitting that level. And we're just going to continue at this point with having students join in on this program, and that is going to be offered. It's not in the classrooms yet.
So are you also talking to the teachers about this? Because one thing is, I mean, yeah, my son is quite good with his time management and with can cope with stress, but the thing is, I mean, if he writes 3 exams on one day, and sometimes they just get about not even a week notice, then of course they are stressed. I mean, then the whole complete plan is just messed up anyway.
And the
other sometimes it's I think with the homework, it's not balanced at all.
And you know what? That is something a lot of people, talk about, and it is very possible a reality. Measures are being put in place constantly to try to ensure this is minimized at every level, so that teachers are all sharing when their assessments are, so that they can take a look and make sure it is more balanced. It takes time to get all those in place, but that is at the forefront of their mind, because teachers want their students to succeed. And they are the ones too saying, I had a teacher even bring me this little book, the kids still need some more skill development in, strategies in how do I manage my time. So this is needed, and that is why I too am trying to get into the classrooms more to promote these skills.
I mean, first of all, it should be kind of a limit how many exams they can write in one day. Coordination.
There should,
Coordination.
yeah,
I mean, quite
coordination.
often he comes home and he's got 3 exams in one day. How
Yeah.
can that be?
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be happening.
It happens.
Yeah, it may happen. Quite often?
Yes.
What grade?
Sense.
Okay. So we can bring it up. The NYP and DP coordinators, part of what they're trying to do isn't to ensure this doesn't happen often. It should all be published in advance. I can tell you, actually, just yesterday, I got from grade 11 and 12, the DP coordinator, a 2-week list of events that are happening for the students that all teachers need to plug in, so that every teacher can see what the other teachers are doing, so they schedule accordingly. So that is happening. Now, maybe it's slower to happen than we would like. This I can't comment on, but I can take note of it. Yes, sure.
The same thing with my daughter in grade 9. She has like a very full schedule on her agenda. And they get stressed because of that. And we speak to the teachers, they get assignments and exams on the same day, like 1 or 2 or 3. And we speak to any of the teachers, they can't postpone it because they said like they know about this before. So the teachers cannot see each other, like the kids' schedule, the students' schedule.
They can.
They can't. Like they cannot see what other teachers have put as assessments or as.
No, they should be able to. They should be able to. Okay. I mean, I can look into it for you, but my understanding is they should be able to. Now, we do have to be realistic, and that's why it's good to be able to set our agenda ahead of time, in that there will be certain times of year when assessments have to be done, right? Because report card, for example, semester 1 ends in less than 2 weeks. Report card marks have to be done. Now, everybody knows that. So you would hope that things are spaced out accordingly. But there are confines that we all work within too. But I will note this is a concern. I can certainly bring it up to both NYP and DP coordinators. Information's power, right?
I just want to agree with the parents as well, because I have in grade 8 and in grade 10.
Right.
And I get these complaints also from my children. Sometimes the assessments are assigned earlier, but suddenly a test comes in the same week on the same day. And for the children, yeah, sometimes for the students, it does stress them because it's sudden. Sometimes like just, let's say on a Thursday, they tell them on a Monday, and they are already, they know about the, let's say if they have a project, but they don't know about the assessment. And suddenly the assessment
Pops up, and now we've got to schedule that
and they
quickly.
feel that, oh, I don't have enough time, and it gets them stressed. Maybe they can manage a little bit, but
Fair enough.
and sorry, from my children also, which I understand that teachers, they don't see other teachers' schedule.
Hey, well, you know what? I will look into it.
Because sometimes I encourage my children to go and speak to the teacher and tell them that they have more than one assignment. Sometimes they feel shy and they say, no, it's okay, I don't want. But sometimes they say, yeah, because the other teacher did not know that that teacher had something.
You know what? I can hear this is definitely maybe an MYP issue, so I will check. And I can verify for sure the DP level teachers know. For sure. I mean, I saw it myself coming through my email yesterday. So I will check on MYP and see if that is or is not happening.
Something that is also happening all the time is that they push you a test. They say the test will be now, and then and for some reason, now we don't do it today, we'll do it next time, next time. And then they give a constant stress, and they add new things upon each other. That happens.
And
On the other side, I think I also agree with it. On the other side, it's a little bit real life.
I was going to say,
we
we
cannot
have
make
to
it in
learn
a
to be
world.
flexible.
I mean, after studies, I mean, you will get into a world where not everything is regulated. And, it helps you also to focus and to indeed make a time schedule about what needs to be done. And they have to learn how to organize their own timing.
And that's part of the time management, and it is part of flexible thinking too. Right? We want to encourage flexibility. If we are so structured, and we're teaching children to be so structured, then any upset in that structure is magnified. If we can help them to be flexible and adaptable, that's a good skill too.
strategy book brought to you by a teacher. If you were to identify a strategy that they, for example, a specific strategy maybe this teacher even identified, that you could tell us about, and maybe we as parents could consider, is this a strategy my child has, and this would be something we could take home and maybe try to...
Well, number one is the planning. It's sitting down and planning. And number one tip for parents is to sit down and plan with them. And that book.
One of the things it should be a coordination between the teacher for the assignment of the homework. They should keep a balance. When they see that the load is too heavy, and then they should stop. But each one of them, they are going to comply with the program.
This is something I said I will look into. We have to balance, do that the best we can, and also the IB is a rigorous program too, right? So we got to balance both of those things. There's a lot of demands we got to be realistic about, and know too, the teachers that are here because they want to be here. They are here for the students, and I mean, I can't make a blanket statement, but I could almost say for sure that is all of them. That's what's the best interest at heart. Is we want these children to succeed. We want the students to succeed.
Can you please tell us in which blog are you making the information available?
The secondary school blog. Thank you.
I was given this advice by parents of older students, is when your children, particularly in the junior levels, come home and say, oh, I've got no homework. There is no such thing as no homework. They can always sit and learn with a academy for Arabic and French. And then when those tests come up, it's not such a disaster.
Daily revising.
Yeah, and looking over the notes for science and humanities and whatever. You know, they have to get past that idea there is no homework today. There is. They can always learn Arabic words. They can always learn French words. And I think something that doesn't necessarily come home strong enough from the school, but certainly as parents we can say to the children, oh, what about? I mean, in French they're working on Quizlet, certainly the grade 6s. They can do that any day, any time. You know, maths they can always go back onto the website and do more practicing. So there is no such thing as no homework. That helps them plan. Thank you.
They notice that there are kids that are doing very well and kids that are not doing so well. Because I know for sure my son is struggling with Arabic and there's no help.
Well,
and then there's some subjects he's doing so well he's bored.
Right. Good question. I can't say for sure I've got the answer. I can tell you that if students...
Something should be looked into because there's some subjects they do so well in and they're so bored. Because maybe they're teaching them 1 + 1 and it's already in 10 times 10. And it's like, and then definitely I know one of my boys is struggling with Arabic and he doesn't have help. So there should be a balance in.
Can I just also offer, as someone I consider myself lucky enough to have a lot of involvement over the 3.5 years that I've been at the school, and you know, through my involvement to the parent team mainly, I've been able to get to know a lot of the teachers very well, and I can't think of one teacher that I've come across through both my kids that have ever shut me down if I've wanted to come in and ask questions about where my kids are at, or any concerns that, you know, that I've had with, you know, all these things that we're bringing up as parents, honestly. And I know there's a few, quite a few, I think, new faces in the room too. So, you know, possibly a lot of this questioning coming from parents that haven't been here all that long or are new to even just the NYP section. But I can absolutely reassure you that the teachers that I've been in touch with, there's very few teachers that I probably don't know now, and all of them have always been unbelievably accommodating, and I believe very genuine in that their hearts are in the right places and they are trying to do the right thing for our kid. And it doesn't always, work in well, but for me, I don't expect perfection, but I do expect to be heard and for them to at least then start considering concerns, and I've always found that. So I'd encourage you to use those avenues. Go and speak to any of the teachers that you're concerned about. If you've got, a concern in one particular subject area, go and chat to them. Make a time to go and see them. I've never heard of a teacher saying no, they won't see a parent. Then beyond that, if you're not happy, you've got deans in the NYP. And all of the deans, I know them all, and they're all really proactive and they're awesome with the kids. And the kids, from my experience, really look up to these people as their leaders of their grades, they're another really good option for you to go to and discuss any of these issues, particularly this, and I know myself, I've got, you know, a son in NYP and he's coming in, we've got this, they've just told us we've got an assessment and I didn't know, and I'm like, well, they're allowed to do that, you know? You're supposed to be revising, you're supposed to be able to be, you know, spot tested just to see where you're at. And as this gentleman pointed out very rightly, when they go into the real world, they can't turn around to their boss and say, well, you didn't tell me that was going to happen. Like, you know, so they are being prepared in NYP for the real world here. But if you're not happy with you know, any of those areas, or you're worried about the impact that it's having on your kid, there honestly are some really great people in the school here and avenues that you can take. And then even beyond that, SLT, so the whole senior leadership team, and I actually know a lot of parents don't know this, but the leaders of the team, the principal, Mr. Wayne, secondary principal, Ms. Catherine, and PYP principal, Mr. Stephen, they're available every Monday morning in meeting room E2 in the E block. They're just waiting for you, for anyone who wants to come in. They address car park frustrations, they address timetabling issues, they address uniform complaints. I've seen and heard the greatest range of discussion in there, and people are usually really sad. It's like, oh, okay, usually our frustration and stress, I think, comes from not knowing or not understanding, but if you get an explanation or you know what's being done to address these issues, it puts us all, you know, at ease. So honestly, yeah, I encourage you to use all of those avenues.
Thank you. And this is just me. I'm just one person. This is my 4th school in my career in different places in the world, Canada, Cayman Islands, and here. Honestly, this is the school that I've had the best morale at amongst the staff, and I can honestly say this is the most committed staff I've seen. So I totally agree with you. This is an awesome school. So if you are having problems, please, the teachers are definitely there to assist in whatever way they can.
I'd like to just get your advice on the strategy, and it's not working very well. So it could be my strategy is wrong. I have a grade 6 who's one of the agenda little problems, and my idea was that each day when he came home, he would write 3 things that he did in each of the classes I teach, because I can't worry about the others. And I mean, I help him with it, I'm not a teacher. And is this unproductive, do you think, to get him to say, oh, we did English, we learned this verbal? Is it unproductive? Am I unrealistic?
Well, no, I don't think so. Again, it's child-based, but as a teacher now, speaking of my past experience as a teacher, we should always be reviewing and reflecting, because that's how we solidify our learning. So at the end of a lesson, I should be somehow summarizing what we just learned and making sure the student can do the same thing, because then you have a good sense of what did they pick up and where are the gaps. Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to wind it up there, but you have an email, Mrs. Carmen has an email address that I believe you encourage people to contact if need. So if you've got specific questions, you can contact Ms. Carmen beyond this session. And I'd like to thank you very much. It is a topic, I think, any of us with teenagers and...
So it's, sorry, first initial, last name at ris.ae. It's on Management too.
Yeah, and as we said before, this presentation is going to be on, can I just, out of interest, because I'm always interested in how the parents are receiving